You're listening to Be Still and Grow, the GCC Ladies Podcast with Catherine,
Heather, and Nicole, where we dive into deep theological topics and real-life issues through the art of conversation.
So take a seat at the table with us.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Be Still and Grow GCC Ladies Podcast. We are so excited for everyone to be listening today because we have two awesome guests with us. With myself, Nicole, and Heather. We have the wonderful Leah Burdette.
I'm hilarious even by name.
Yes. and Meliah Danford. I'm so excited to have y'all today.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome to the table.
So it's kind of funny. We always kind of like talk about our weekends, what we've been doing, but we thought it was kind of ironic that all the ladies here, not to single out Heather, but
Yeah, not me. Not even cool party people.
but
only.
yeah,
It's never too late to join.
oh yeah,
That's true.
yes.
You don't want me to join.
But the four of us are actually a part of a garden club that we all do. I also don't want to single out Leah, but I would say she is the queen of the garden club.
Thank you very much.
Her garden is pretty spectacular.
Oh, thanks.
It is amazing.
Well, it's
It
been
really
a
is.
lot of work, a lot of mosquito bites, a lot of tears over random vegetables, but it's fun mostly.
How many years have you been doing it since you started?
I mean, I grew out of pots in the backyard for a long time. And then I would say maybe like 3 or 4 years. I mean, it hasn't been that long. Every
Yeah.
year I'm just like, I'm not going to make it any bigger. Oh, whoops. I added 4 more beds. I don't know how that happened. Literally every year. So I would say probably 4 years, I would think, somewhere in there.
have you always liked doing stuff with plants, or is it just?
So when I was younger, my parents made us garden, and I hated it. My dad called it the victory garden, and I specifically remember him. He would probably hate to know that I remember this story, but we had rabbits in the garden, and he put the garden hose down the rabbit hole to kill all the baby bunnies.
Oh my
And I was probably 12 years old and will never forget that. So
Oh, yeah.
I was like, gardening is terrible. It basically is the death of rabbits.
Oh,
And so,
Holy cow.
but yeah, I mean, no, I did not enjoy it up until a few years ago.
And then
Oh,
you
wow.
got to be a bunny foster.
Yeah,
this
and I had bunnies this year, and I let every one of them live.
That's right. Redeemed.
There
All
you
the
go.
bunnies. Redeemed.
Full
They
circle.
were so cute.
Oh man. And then how long have you been doing your garden, Meliah?
So for the in-ground that I have now, or I guess part raised bed, part in-ground, I'm a year behind Leah because I did containers for an additional year, but I don't know. It was like year 2 into our house.
I don't even remember. Yeah.
My back porch, we have that big back porch, was a jungle for years, and it was really wonderful.
I feel like the pandemic time is just like all 1 year, even though
yeah.
it was 3
Yeah.
years. So it kind of throws off my perception of what all that was. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think somewhere in that ballpark. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I
it gives me
also
such
I'll
hope.
ask the plants when I get home.
It gives me such hope. I want to be a better gardener, but every time I'm like, I'm going to do it. We move.
Yeah.
It's like all this ambition and pre-work, and we move.
I literally
wow.
told Nathan that because I've like really spent a lot of effort on making sure my soil microbiome is correct. Anyone? Are we going to really go here? But like trying to make sure that like my soil is very healthy so that it takes a lot of like the stress off the plants and hence stress off the gardener. And I was like, if we ever did move, we would have to scoop dirt out and carry it to our next garden because I have spent too much energy and money trying to get this
You could just
right.
put a pool in, and that way there's, you could just take all that dirt with
Take
you.
all of that.
Fill it up with a pool. And
Well,
you'll be done.
most of it's raised beds. So, I mean, it would literally be like scooping it out, but it would be so heavy. I don't even want to think about it.
Oh, man. I just would imagine like I would be at that point. I'd be like, was this worth it? I don't know if I can do this. Like I'm going to abandon you all. I loved you at one time, but not anymore.
Best of luck. As you just like fade out.
But I mean, as much as like I love the post that you posted today, Meliah, it was just like, it brings you lot of peace and joy, but then at the same time, like then you have like a bunny or deer that comes up and eats some lettuce, and you're like, I want a gun and I want to kill all these things. Like I've never felt so much rage against deer and bunnies in my entire life. Like I wish they would walk up, because I don't know what I would do. I feel like
You'd fist fight it,
I
probably.
would. I thought
to that point.
I have
You're
thought
like,
that
square
multiple
up,
times.
Meliah is a walking conundrum too, because she'll be like, oh my gosh, a deer broke into my garden and ate half of my fill in the blank. And then the next minute she's like, oh my gosh, there's a mama deer in the backyard with like 3 babies. They're so
I know.
cute. Like, how do you love them and hate them? I don't understand.
It's a
it.
complicated relationship. It's what my mom is flowers. She, like, half of our yard was flowers. And so there wasn't like a animal situation. I mean, aphids were like the biggest problem. But yeah. And then in the containers up in the safety of my porch, I didn't really have any problems with squirrels, but that wasn't so bad. But last year, the invasion of the slugs, and I was literally just chucking slugs into the sun just as hard as I could, because I was just so enraged. And then this year, the deer, I'm making friends with the buck, but I'm also like, you're my friend, just stay on your side of the fence.
Literally. She's like, look, I almost touched it. I'm like, why are you inviting it? He's going to eat everything.
I fed a doe blueberries in the backyard on
cannot.
our side of the fence the other day. She was so close to me. I was like, this is my Snow
They're
White
just
moment.
chopping
This
it
is
away.
it.
I know.
They're just like, I'm so cute, feed me.
That
And
doe
then
is
you're
here
going to go to
scoping
bed.
out the salad bar. Is what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
I'm going to go out with a bang, that's for sure. She was trampled by a deer.
Oh man.
I did one morning. I was out like getting ready for work. Like this is early. This is like maybe 6 o'clock in the morning, and I could see a deer in my yard, and I fully turned on the hose and ran out there in my scrubs. Like I was ready for work, and I was like, get out of here, deer. Spraying the hose like a crazy lunatic. My kids are like, is the bus and what's happening? They were so confused.
Mommy's losing it. Just go inside, eat your cereal.
Oh man. As much as they're a lot of work, they are fun. There are some joyful moments, but yeah, gardens will stab you in the heart real fast.
My garden's pretty pitiful this year.
For sure.
Yeah, stick to Kroger.
We have a saying, Meliah and I, that watermelons will break your heart.
They sure
Nothing will
will.
break your heart like a watermelon.
Unless you're Chelsea
Because they
McDonald
take- yes,
and you
it
grow
was
a
the
whole
hugest
beautiful watermelon.
But like they take forever to grow, and they will just fully be like, and like wither away on the vine. You'll just have like a beautiful fat watermelon that all of a sudden gets a rot spot and just
Or
you
a
open
heartbreak.
it. It's perfectly ripe, everything, and then it's literally like an inch diameter of actual pink
Yes,
inside. It's
Ooh.
terrible.
It's really just a game of chance when you
Yes.
pick it. You're like, all the things point to yes and no. Definitely not.
Or a
Not today.
squash bug finds them.
Anyway.
That's
Arch
tomatoes for me. I feel like
nemesis.
tomatoes are breaking my heart. Like I want to grow them so much. There was one that's turning red. I guarantee it's probably gone by now. But like I'm convinced that I'm going to be the bell pepper lady, because I can grow those. Nobody wants to touch
That's
the bell
right.
peppers.
Man, I actually meant to bring tomatoes tonight, and I forgot.
really? Oh,
like
no.
because I'm the crazy person who grows tomatoes, but not really like tomatoes. But I feel like
Salsa.
you just kind of have to grow them, if you're
Yeah.
gonna garden. But anyway, I'll try to remember to bring them Sunday. We'll see.
Oh, you're good.
Chicken's got the
It's
majority
literally
of
like
infections.
like tomatoes.
Oh,
Like,
hey.
so many tomatoes. So
I will
we'll see.
take all the tomatoes and I
So-
will make tomato sauce and can it and bring you all some.
I will
Oh,
bring
yes.
them Sunday. You don't
Yeah.
even have to do that.
That's what I normally do.
Just
I
don't
do
let them rot in my
salsa.
fridge after I have
Yeah.
grown them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Salsa, pasta sauce, fried green tomatoes. That's the extent of mine. But I'm like, don't you dare give me no disgusting raw
slimy.
tomato.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
Today I even put a tomato on my sandwich because I thought I was going to be a grown up. And then about halfway through I was like, nope, I cannot do this.
Still
This
not
is
a
too much.
grown-up.
So I picked it off, but then it had those weird like tomato gooey bits.
Yeah,
What are
it's
those?
got tomato. It's a
Ugh.
bit juiced on it.
Yeah, I just cannot. I can't. I couldn't recover. It's like, can
Oh,
I
man.
paper towel this off?
Shoot. we grew up. We would take just a regular tomato, cut it clean off, put salt on it, eat it like an apple. And it
No,
was
you're a
wonderful.
maniac.
That's how I eat a
Wonderful.
tomato sandwich.
No.
I love
Salt,
it.
mayo.
They taste like dirty water.
Otherwise, I don't like tomatoes.
That's why
We
we're
are a
friends,
table
Meliah.
divided, y'all.
Right?
Yeah, like literally down the line. We're outnumbered, but I think we can take them.
Let's don't get into a conversation about sweet tea. That would just
I
be
was fixing the same.
I'm sorry.
Dirty water,
Mom,
unsweet tea.
I'll be by myself
Oh,
on that
yeah.
one.
Right.
You don't like sweet tea?
Unsweet
I don't like sweet tea because
Well-
I don't like sugar
Oh,
in my
how are
tea.
you
You
in the South?
don't.
Well, she she's
Well,
also
I
from Florida.
am also
so.
not from the South.
I'm
Wait.
looking at you in different eyes.
I
now.
know. And now I'm like, I don't know
can't
anything
unsee
about
this.
you. I was like, Florida is South. It's
No,
Georgia's
they're
pants.
Yankees. No,
That is South.
My goodness.
The farther south you go into Florida, the more north it gets.
I
Yeah,
get that.
true,
I
true.
get that.
Yeah.
Wrong. Absolutely not. I won't accept this information.
Oh yeah. Goodness. Well, she gets a pass, so it's fine. It's fine. But I keep telling her I can't wait till Chelsea McDonald gets on the podcast because she also doesn't like sweet tea, and every time I see a meme or something, I send it to her about unsweet tea because it's trash.
It
It is
is.
literally
Literal trash.
trash
It's like-
water.
It's like you ruined a perfectly good glass of water by making it into unsweet
Ladies,
tea.
let's.
Why are we here today? We're about to have some converts of a different
Yeah.
nature.
No, because now we need to wage war on unsweet tea drinkers.
Come on.
This conversation will remind us why we need real relationships.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. We
Yeah.
need people in our life to,
To
correct
bridge the
us when we're
gap.
going down the wrong path. Preach. So yes, so bringing it back in, yes, our conversation today is about really real relationships, and so it's kind of like a three-parter. It's basically how God shows Himself through friendships, and so whether it's His pursuit of us, Him reaching out to us, and then and also us reaching out to Him, basically. And then how important it is to go deep in conversations and friendships. So we invited Meliah and Leah because we feel like they're a great model of what a good friendship is. And so how long have y'all been friends?
We were talking about this
Yeah.
a second ago.
I'm really bad with numbers. Whenever the church started, and we did all of those like pre-dinners, I think that's. Did we
Well,
know each other a little bit
yeah, because
before? Yeah, because
you were there when we got engaged at Disney.
was that?
And I think that was like,
GCC?
it was because we got
See,
married like
I don't know.
the
Time
same
is
year that we
funny to
got
me.
into like this facility.
So maybe like
I think it's like 12 years.
that sounds good. I'm not going to argue with that. Feel good. Feel good about that.
So was it one of those friendships that like when y'all first met, you're like, yeah, we're definitely friends, or like, I hate this woman, and then you became like then you started to like each other?
No, I don't really remember like first
No.
meeting you.
I don't either. I remember it. I remember it being like, yup, this is gonna be it, because we had so many overlapping interests, even
We
though
did have a lot
we're
of
so
overlapping
similar
interests.
and so, different.
all at the same time. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, are we the same person?
Yeah.
Like we even have a little funny song. Should we sing it?
Oh yeah.
Oh my.
Do 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 do
Meliah Leah.
do do do
Meliah Leah.
do 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 do.
Hey, that's fantastic.
Okay.
So didn't plan on doing that, but it happened.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say probably 12 years ish, somewhere in there. And yeah, I feel like our husbands knew each other first.
Yeah. Then they worked together first.
No, Phil didn't work with Nathan at that point. I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, we should have thought about this more. But
We're really good with
basically, we
timelines,
were both
apparently.
like, "What? You're crafty. I'm crafty. Let's be best friends." And so
Cookie Day was born before the y'all were still in the apartment when Cookie Day was
we
born.
were still in our. I think Cookie Day probably. So every year at Christmas time, we bake cookies for a marathon of cookies, like literally like 16 hours of baking cookies until you hate cookies and don't want to see another one.
For 365
Thousands
days.
of cookies,
Yes, exactly.
Beginning of
literally
the year.
thousands of cookies in one day. But the first year we did it like for a couple of hours every like Wednesday in December.
Yeah,
or
it was
something.
like it was a couple weeks.
So I think that amount, like spending time with each other, then that's probably where our friendship started. Oh, we bonded over cookies.
We did.
Aw.
And then she
Stop.
was like, I think I'm gonna make a quilt. Do you want to make a quilt? And I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
yup.
And then we like went through our first pregnancies together, and yeah, that just kind of worked out that way. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
I
it's-
love that. That's really
Mhm.
good. I feel like it's really important to find that. Well, not only just in churches, but I feel like just in general, like you were saying, like having those similar interests, like, I think that's a really cool thing. Because I feel like I've heard you say it a lot. I've heard actually a lot of people say it a lot. They're like, when you're adults, you're like, how do you make friends as an adult? Like, it's so awkward. It's like, you want to be my friend? It's like-
well, another thing that helped too is like right after we moved to Fayetteville, I was working at an orthodontist office and we were looking for somebody to do the front desk. And so I was like, I have a great friend who's looking for a new job. Ayo.
Take a chance on me.
So Meliah started working. So we carpooled every day for like
The entire time we worked there.
and we
didn't
learned a lot of things, like that I am hard, not a morning person. like I want to like roll out of bed in like all sorts of disheveledness, go to work and like put myself together on the way. And I would pull up to Meliah's house and she'd jump in my car like, good morning. I brought snacks.
I'm an all the time
And I'm
person.
like, don't talk to me. Literally, I would just be like, Meliah, you're going to have to calm your pep down until like 30 more minutes. So just give me some time to be grumpy over here.
I wish I
Okay.
could have seen your face the first time she got in your car.
I was not prepared for the
Stop.
pep.
Oh, I always got a
Seriously.
pep talk in the chamber.
She does.
So
She does. She's like, actually, Monday's the only
Only
worst.
bad
This is a
day.
direct quote. Only bad day of the week because Tuesday is halfway to Wednesday and Wednesday is halfway through your week. When Thursday is the pre-party to Friday and Friday is Friday. This is the level of pep that I was dealing with when I was like, it's 6:30 in the morning. I want to watch the world burn. Okay.
and then if something good happens on your Monday, bam,
Hey.
good day.
I love that.
Same.
I think that's fantastic.
No, you can calm your pep too.
I'm with you, Leah. I'm
Thank
with
you. Thank
You
you.
need them quiet, still moments
Yes.
in the morning to be like,
Yes.
why?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why is this day a day? The only good days are Saturdays and Sundays.
But I love that. I think that's great to have people in your life like that. Because I mean, I was just talking with Heather earlier. It's like I feel like, man, you know, a lot of people and a lot of friendships don't go deep, or they're very cliquish, and you know, I think which is not the greatest thing in the world.
No.
And so, what's your experiences with that, Heather? Like, how would you go with that?
It changes my everything to have good friends. When we first moved to Fayetteville 8 years ago now, I didn't know anybody. You know, we just kind of stumbled into the Fayetteville area, and so I didn't know anybody, and it took me years to develop good friendships. I kind of felt like, I don't know, like 10 years right before we moved here, God kept redirecting our path, you know, and so our friends kept changing, or the friends that I'm like, oh, this is my best friend. This is the girl. This is the one that I'm going to do the rest of my life with. And we're going to be like the same person. And then she's like, oh, my husband's joining the army and we're actually getting stationed 7 hours away. Oh, cool. And then, you know, the next one is like, oh, hey, we're moving to Augusta. Oh, hey, you know, it's like, okay, well, I'm all on my own. And then I move away and then I'm like, I don't know anybody. And I don't know. It was just like over and over and over. So then I actually got to a point where I was like, hey, I'm going to learn how to be on my own. That's what, you know, it's just going to be me and my husband and my kids and we're going to be fine. And I gave up on it. And then God's like, hey, that's not what I designed you for. So like, even if all the friends that I have had in the past, I loved them and needed them for that season and I still have them. They're just not the person who's giving me pep talks on a Monday morning, I guess.
I got you. She's got plenty of them to spare if anybody needs a pep talk.
And it is hard. It's hard to kind of, when you're trying to join in places or, you know, like I am such an introvert. I'm not going to like, hey, I'm here and I'm going to be your new best friend.
Preach.
I don't know. So I am trying very hard in the closest group of friends that I have now to not ever have anybody be like, oh, that's them. They don't ever let anybody play with them. You know, like they're in their own sandbox and we got to get our own. So because it's really hard. I mean, people need people. And if there is ever a person out there who doesn't have a person, come and be our person,
Absolutely.
you know, that's super, it's just, my driest times with the Lord have been during those times of not having friends. And so when I did develop good friends, it was like, oh, this is great. And I'm talking about things of God and oh, what did you read this morning? And just being able to have those deep relationships keeps me processing my own thoughts in my own heart. Otherwise I'll just going on about my life and I don't think deep into anything. So I need those friends to stop and just say like, hey, this is what I'm praying through and, you know, help me process things. And so that has been a game changer for me over the last few years.
Yeah, I think the sweetness of the Lord, like you're saying, that He doesn't design us to be alone. He designed us to have friends, and love on each other, and I feel like just to, show himself in relationships through conversations, through serving, being there for each other. It made me think of the scripture, Romans 12:10, where it says, love one another with brotherly affection and outdo one another in showing honor. And even another scripture where they talk about, help carrying each other's burdens and stuff. Like, it's such a beautiful representation of the Lord and what he does for us. And so to have that in friendship, I think, is such a sweet thing. And so it shows how important they are. And so if you had to describe, Nicole, like just how important having relationships and friendships are, like how would you describe that?
Well, in my life experience, I've always been the person that's like, let me have one really good friend or two really good friends at a time. And it's like small, tight-knit friend circle of kids that you've known your whole life. So when I moved here, I had nobody. Like, it was me and my husband. That was it. And he was working with the FCA at the time and like busy with the church that we were involved in. So I was home alone a lot. I started driving for Lyft because I was like, I also don't know where I am. I don't know how to get anywhere. I don't even have a person I can call to be like, how do you go to the grocery store? Like, nothing. And it's the first time I've ever moved that far away from anyone. So I was completely by myself. And I don't think I really valued or put value in a relationship until that experience. Because when you have good friends and you're surrounded by that, it's really easy to be desensitized to what you have until you don't have it anymore. And, friendships can only stay so fulfilling via FaceTime for so long. And it gets really difficult. So when we had left our last church, I kind of made an internal decision. I'm not going to be anybody but myself anymore. Because we grew up in a church environment that was very much about you have to be a certain type of personality to be an effective Christian. You have to be extroverted because that's like the fruit of the Spirit. I'm like, that is not me. I'm going to be my introverted self because that's who the Lord made me to be.
Right.
And I will tell you, at this moment in my life, I have more deep relationships and friends than I've ever had, ever in my life. And I would say it's vitally important to the Christian walk. I mean, how many times literally in the scripture does the words one another get used? Like to bear one another's burdens, to love one another, to pray for one another, to be with one another, to not forsake the fellowship of ourselves gathering together. So I think person to person it's important. For the body it's important. For community it's important. And I think it's vital to that health.
Yeah. When y'all think about that, when y'all think about y'all's friendship, Leah and Meliah, like, what sticks out to you knowing that how important it is to have friendships? Like, how would you...
You trying to make me cry right now?
Because she will.
Because I will cry
At least I'm not the first one, so...
Oh, goodness. I'm going to let you take that one.
Okay, you want me to start? So for me, growing up, relationships were very come and go. They weren't a permanent thing. So I don't think that I ever really had an opportunity to have a deep friendship like that. And so, when me and Leah met and we just clicked, it was, I don't know, I was just expecting like an implosion or a change in life and it didn't. And it was truly a gift from the Lord and such an opening for me to be able to understand what it is to have a friendship and walk out community, and to be able to grow that. And honestly, it hasn't been easy. Just understanding what those dynamics are like, and for so long thinking like, what is it about me that it's hard for me to make friends, and just thinking like, well, maybe it's just me. Everyone's not going to like everyone. But then over the past year, really the Lord just putting on my heart transparency and just being real with people, and what it takes to be friends with someone is to just be their friend. And that it doesn't have to be this complex thing, and it doesn't have to be possessive. Like, there's nothing more beautiful than, to me, when I hear Leah be like, oh, I had dinner with so-and-so, and I just want them to feel loved. And I'm just like, that's my friend, girlfriend. Like, it's just a beautiful thing.
Although we'll still fully joke like, oh, yeah? Where was I?
Do you still love I don't remember that. It must not have happened.
I don't remember seeing that on my calendar. But no, fully joking.
No, but yeah. And so just seeing and getting to experience what friendships that glorify God and teach you how to grow, whether it's, you know, something that you see or something that you like in front of you or in hindsight. It's just very important. And like you said, it's healthy. I think it goes for your mental, emotional, and spiritual health.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a wordsmith. I'm not good with my words like all of you guys.
She be lying.
Oh, yeah. Like she says that.
I'm like,
She's
let's
awesome.
just joke and stuff, right, guys? I mean, yeah, but seriously, I went to a really small school. It was like a school for the homeschoolers. We had 12 whole kids in our graduating class. So I mean,
I had 14.
I mean, very small. And so like I had friends there, but it was very cliquish. And after high school, even in college, like it was just kind of like a season of new friends all the time. Oh, you're in this class with these people. These are your friends, but they were never really like people who would be like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a couple days. Are you okay? Hey, I can't tell you how many times Meliah with her pep comes at me and he's with my Eeyore heart, you know, it's like, so, you've just seemed a little different. Is everything okay? And well, just call me out on that. Like, and not let me wallow in my selfishness, I guess would be a good word.
No
for
hiding.
it. Yeah. No hiding. So, I mean, I'd say you were probably probably my first like real grown-up friend. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's been a long time ago, but like, I mean, seriously, even in like that transient period, we had friends, you know, people you'd go to dinner with, people you'd hang out with or whatever, but not people who were more concerned about your heart and like growing as a person and not just, you know, goofing off on Saturdays and hanging out kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, like when you've had a friendship for so long, I feel like it's sometimes harder to go deep because you're like, well, you know, I have this really awesome friend. Well, if I say something, I'm going to lose this awesome friend. I don't want to lose them, so I shouldn't go deep. Everything's going great right now. Like, have you ever had that struggle of like, or is it easier that you've been friends for so long? Is there a time that you still get nervous? Like, I don't know, am I going deep? I don't know about that.
I don't think so much now. I mean, I definitely remember a period where I was like, I am drowning in life and I feel like I need to talk to some. Oh, look, I'm already talking to Leah. Sorry, Leah.
We're on a Marco Polo, right? And sometimes we'll start a message with, I just need to talk about this. So if you got things to do, push pause and come back.
And before that, it was Voxer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it would just be like these long monologues of like, I just need to talk about some things. I need somebody to speak into this and call me out on where my heart is not in the right place and, you know, encourage me in places where I can do better.
But there's something just so freeing about having that accountability and being able to be transparent and not just carry things out and to just be like, hey, I'm really struggling with this. And, you know, there may be a fear of like, oh, well, you know, what if they judge me? What if they like pull away? But in that moment, it's like, I'm just going to have faith that, you know, this friendship is a gift from the Lord and he's going to grow it as he sees fit. And maybe this moment where I feel like I need my sister in Christ, he'll use that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All the community group leaders are reading a book right now called Life in Community. And okay, so I'm listening to it because I'm not one of those reader people. I read with my ears.
I'm an audiobook person myself,
Yes,
so
yes.
I'm with you.
And he made such a great point. He said that so many people just don't feel loved or like wanted by people. But really one of the roots of that is that no one knows you because you're not being yourself. You're not being transparent enough. You're not being open enough. And so people may like, oh yeah, I love you so much. But you know, like they could be your ride or die. But if they don't really know you, you deep down don't feel loved because you know no one really knows you.
Right. Like if you're only putting out the Instagram version of yourself, like
Exactly.
then people don't know you with your messy kitchen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. I remember we'll call them our first adult friends, too.
It's got to be your grown-up.
Yeah, a grown-up friend.
That's the rules.
One of my first grown-up friends where I was like, bro, I don't have to clean my house before you come. Kind of that friend, you know, because she's like, yeah, come on over. And I walk in and there's mail on the counter and there's still like lunch plates on the table or whatever. And there was like laundry in the basket in the living room. And I was like, what? I thought I was the only one. And like, to me, when I see it in my house, I'm like, I'm struggling. I just don't have it together like all these other ladies. And she's like, girl, no. And I was like, you want to come to my house? You want to come play? I can have you pull over to my house because wait a minute, this is normal.
Yeah. Someone recently was at my house and they said, I just love that your house looks like it's lived in. I'm like, what do you do in your house? Don't you live there?
I think that as women, though, it's so easy to fall into that, like, holding yourself to some, like, formalized expectation of what your household is supposed to look like and what your house should be decorated as. And if you're not meeting those expectations, then it's, like, an opportunity for shame. Like, well, then I need to hide that part of myself. Like, it just isn't a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it shouldn't be a thing, because I think all of us live in our homes, but that compulsion to be like, oh,
I don't live
is
here.
really there. Like, it needs to look like nobody lives here. And I'm terrible about that. Like, I have anxiety, so like clutter on the table is like, that
preach,
can't
girl.
happen.
Preach.
But I live
want
with
that
clutter on the
anxiety.
table
Yeah.
because my husband is a clutter bug. So compromise. But I think that it's also about fighting that fakeness that like just so easily wants to creep and rob us of like deep and rich relationship.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think it's the perceived expectation that we think the world is going to view us in, like these perceptions of who we should be and how we should be. And then they just snowball into these lies in our head. And then it's like, well, then if people know me, if people know that I let clutter collect on my dinner table, I'm going to be unwanted. I'm going to be too messy for someone to love.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
a lie. It's not
I'm
true.
going to brag on my friend here right now, and I really might cry telling this story. It's really silly. Have you ever just had, speaking of anxiety, that stresses me out. Like if I get into what I call avalanche mode. If there's just stuff everywhere and you set something on the counter and it avalanches off the side, do you see where I'm getting at? That's avalanche mode. And it makes my anxiety just like go through the roof. So a few weeks ago, I had avalanche mode happening at home, and I called Meliah and I was like, I just need to talk to you because you need to talk me off the ledge because everything is a mess at home and it just makes me feel like I can't breathe, right? I don't know if you get there. I'm like,
Oh, yes.
I just feel like I can't breathe
Oh, yes.
in my own house. So I went to Walmart and, shopped. And Meliah talked me off the ledge. We were fine. I went home and I worked on it. Well, I went to work the next day. How about I came home? Be careful who you give your keys to, friends.
You done messed up.
Because I came home and Meliah had like broke into my house and
Hold on, I'll be right back. I gotta go
B&E.
get one of my keys.
I'm telling you, I just sat there. First of all, I messaged her and I was like, Marco Polo again, guys. I was like, are you in trouble or did somebody else break in and do this? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry, I only speak English. I gotta go. You're breaking up.
But yeah, that like act of love. I mean, seriously, I'm a ride or die girl. Very sweet, very sweet.
Well, I think that's, just how important it is to go deep. And because I think it's, I feel like you have like your normal everyday friends, like regular friends, and then you have those people that, like you're saying, you're ride or die, that, it's just, I don't know, it's just like makes your heart so full when you have those moments. It's great when like, I feel like a regular person serves you, but I don't know, when that person that's close to home, that I feel like this makes a huge difference. And I feel like, Nicole, you talk about it a lot of just like, not the difference between having real friends and surfacey friends, because I feel like, people are very surfacey and they're like, oh, this is just a friendship. Like, that's not the same thing. Like, how would you describe the differences on that?
Well, I feel like I can't do the shoot the breeze friendships. Like, that's just not my style. Okay. Like, I can like handle that for so long, but being introverted is like all or nothing. Like, you're either going to know everything about me from top to bottom, or like, hey, I'll see you next week.
Next
like,
Sunday.
Yeah.
Nick Miller my way out of here. Cause like, no.
Moonwalk out.
But like that was such an issue for me when I moved here and not having friends, that it was like literally the person, how do you make friends as an adult? Like, hi, will you be my friend? Can we like go play together? Like, what do you do? Like, I'm like, what did I do in kindergarten? Did I have friends in kindergarten? What did I do in first grade? Did I have friends in first grade? Like, okay, like you just do it. So I remember the first time I was like, Catherine's cool. We have common interests. She's into sound. She's into this. Like, I think I'm going to invite her to dinner. I'm telling my husband this, like practicing. And like, he's like, I think that.
Catherine, I'm going to ask you. Hi, Catherine.
George, your voice is too deep. You got to go up here.
And I was like, I think I'm going to do it. And he was like shocked because it's just not my personality. And like, I'd already committed, like, I'm not going to be anybody but me anymore. But I was like, hey, do you want to go to dinner? Like, super nervous. But like, the Lord has done such a great thing in our friendship.
It's beautiful.
And I told her from the rib, I'm like, listen, I don't know how to be friends other than this way. Like, you're just going to get everything. So please feel free to give it back. Because I feel sad for people who struggled to be vulnerable in friendship. I don't feel like that is something that's difficult for me to do. I remember my first community group. We had DNA. It was our first time going to community group. And I just opened up about my whole life, about all my struggles, about like what we deal, like, because, you know, like we're trying to have kids. So like dealing with those like infertility struggles and things. And like everyone in the DNA group is like, bless your heart. Like, welcome to the South. But that's how I am. And, I don't know. I would encourage people who struggle to be open and to be transparent to really try. Yeah. Because when people love Christ and they have the mind of Christ and the heart of Christ, they're not going to see your struggle and shun you. And it reminds us all that we're not alone. Because there's plenty of women in GCC that I've been able to connect with that go through similar things and similar struggles that I go through. And it all comes from being, my husband likes to call it living a hot life, which is honest, open, and transparent. And that's a great motto to live by in friendship. And I think it also births trust. And that's something that's super hard in today's culture, is to foster trust in a relationship.
Yeah. I love that story of it. Like, literally when she had texted me that, I was like, because I mean, I go to dinner with a lot of people, and then we were sitting there and she was like, kept apologizing to me. She was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, why are you apologizing? And then when she told me why she had asked me to go to dinner, I was like, this is what this is about? You could be like, hey, let's be friends. And I've been like, 100%. And she's freaking awesome. So, but I think that's so important and friendships to have that, because I am the opposite. I'm like, let's brush it under the rug, act like it never happened. So like, let's not.
You don't get away with that anymore.
No, I do not. Busted. I do not. It's terrible. I hate it so much. I'm just kidding. No, but it's so great to have that in friendships that push you to say, hey, no. Like basically what y'all was saying, it's like, you know, when you're on that ledge and you need that person to reach out to and stuff, like it is such a beautiful thing. Like I've always had wonderful people in my life that would reach out and do certain things, but like I've never had a friend that was like, yeah, you said this, but I know there's more and we're not going to leave it there because I love you too much. And so but I think that is such an image of God, that he doesn't leave us where we're at, that he brings people in our lives to show how much he loves us, and that he wants healing and growth in our lives, and he uses people purposely for that, which is such a beautiful thing. And like I said, just shows how important it is in those moments, like you're saying, to reach out. Like we should be reaching out, but it is hard at times, and it's very scary to reach out because you never know what they're going to say. Will they be there for you? Would you feel like you need someone there? It can be very scary and difficult. Is there any time that y'all can think in your friendship, Leah and Meliah, of like where you've had that avalanche moment or just a difficult time that, you know, whether it's, man, it took a lot out of me to reach out, or vice versa. You knew that your friend was struggling and you're like, I gotta step in. I want to be there for them. Is there anything that kind of just pops into your mind?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah. My short-term memory is so bad. I'm like, yes, I feel like yes.
I mean, I know for me, but I also wanted to piggyback on what you said, and in being transparent with, you know, not even necessarily like people that are closest with you, just being hot.
I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, I know. He said it to me the other day and I was like, go off, George. Yes. But it's so freeing, and it frees you up to be a better friend, like not just receive friendships, but to be a better friend. And so that I feel like transparency is something that the Lord is really like true transparency, because I think that transparency can also be used as a way to keep people away from you, because you're like, ooh, if I dump this all, people are going to be like, not touching that. But you know, true, not weaponized transparency, because I was guilty of that for, I mean, years and years and years. But it frees you up to receive friendship, but also to be a better friend, because it makes it easier to just love people and to just be like, I love you and I don't care if you think I'm crazy, because I am.
Well, and it makes people feel like they can be the same with you, like they could reciprocate that. Like,
Yes, and it starts a cycle of health and community.
absolutely.
But also, so back to what you were saying, I know that post Lily, I think that, you know, it was post Peter for you. It was post Lily for me. And I don't think...
That's our second kids.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I have Judah Lily. She has
Phoebe
Phoebe
Peter.
Peter.
Yeah.
Post Lily, I was really struggling with postpartum depression, and it was something I never experienced before. And I just remember being like, something's wrong and I don't know what's wrong. And I know that you also have a baby and are struggling, but like, you know, will you just hold my hand? Just in those moments where I'm like, I don't know what to do. You don't know what to do. Just being there for one another. I remember that time was really wonderful. And then, you know, sometimes being married is just hard. And I know that there have been times I've been like, I'm guessing he wants to die today, Leah. So
I don't feel like going to jail, though.
I need your... No, it must have been on sale. He bought it all. So it's like, I either need you to like give me your wisdom, or, you know, ask Siri where to hide a body.
Well, she does have shovels because she's got a garden.
I'm just saying.
I know how to use them. Just saying.
Good
I need an
fertilizer.
alibi, Leah. Good fertilizer. Oh no, it's taking a dark turn.
Like if the husbands are listening to this, they're like, if you need to know what happened, just listen to this podcast.
I love you, Phil.
But yeah, I think, it's such a beautiful thing, you know, to reach out in those moments, because, you know, like I said, it's hard and it's scary, but the healing that it brings is incredible. And I think to me, it shows how incredible the Lord is, that he gives us those people in our lives that, you know, he doesn't, like he says, he doesn't leave us alone. Like, we are always there. We can always reach out to him, and then he puts people in our lives where we can reach out and talk to them, and who God is speaking through to give us encouragement and what we need at that time, which is straight off from him. And I think that's just a beautiful
Representation.
Thank you. That's the word I was trouble. I knew I was going to stumble on one word.
I was like, is this importance? Is this the moment?
Don't, sorry. But just of his pursuit of us. I think it's such a beautiful thing how he pursues us, even when we don't feel like we're people to be pursued in any way. I think he does a beautiful job in friendships and showing us what that looks like. When you think about the person who is like, I'm struggling right now to find friendship. I'm struggling, whether it's in church or the workplace or anything like that. They're just like, I'm in trouble finding that adult friend. What would be your encouragement to that person? Be like, I don't know what to do in that moment.
Rehearse it with your husband and go for it right now.
It's like, it worked out great.
Here's some cue cards. Item 1.
Yeah. Hey, embrace your awkwardness, because I'm awkward as all get out, and I just embrace that now.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
You can be socially awkward and still make friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I was definitely going to talk to someone new in the church the other day, and if they're listening to this, they're going to remember it and be like, yo, I was there.
So awkward.
And I went up and I was going to be like, hey, how are you? You know, all the introductory kind of questions where it's like, where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, hey. And then I could not think of a single word in the English language. Hey, bye. I know. I was like, hi. Oh, no.
This is the time where we stare at each other for 3 minutes.
It was.
And go.
Yeah. And yeah.
That's like one of my biggest fears in conversation is when someone gives those eyes like, you have to own the conversation.
It's
And
your
I'm
turn
like,
now.
I just stare back like, I have nothing.
But back to your question.
Yeah.
I would say like realizing that everybody has that fear somewhere inside them, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Everybody struggles with wanting to be like like wanting to be accepted, wanting to be part of a group, wanting to be, not shunned, I guess would be what I'm going for. So just like starting somewhere and just you have to shoot a certain number of shots, right? And then you will find your person eventually. But on the flip side of that, like, since we all do know that feeling of longing, of wanting to like be a part of something, if you are a person who has like close friends, like be really intentional about talking to people who don't. Like I am not right now with my 2 wild children, I feel like I'm not as intentional as I was. But when the church first started, like, we have that 8 minutes, right? Eight valuable minutes. And I would think of those as like, this is not time to talk to people I know, right? Like in that time, I've been at a church before where it's like, shake a hand, hug a neck. And then I sit there for the next 6 minutes and nobody came up to me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want anybody in my vicinity to feel that way if I could have been the person to fix that for them. But like to be very intentional with looking around and seeing who the faces who are downcast in those moments, who don't expect anybody, and just strike up a conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Leah is really, really excellent at that. I've always just been like,
I have a window. I
In
got about
awe.
a 7-minute window, and then I'm like, and I've asked all the questions.
yeah, she's always been super fantastic at that. And, during that time, I'm like, just look at her go. She's like a little tornado welcoming committee. I love it.
Have you been welcomed? All right, my turn. Let's go.
But I've been able to glean from that and be like, okay, so when she does that, people feel loved and welcomed. I'm like, okay.
Nobody slapped her.
How can I, walk that out for myself? And now it's, it's only taken me like 8 years to figure it out. But,
I think that's the other side of reaching out, and how important it is to reach out in relationship is when you recognize that someone is weaker in something, to be that stronger sister in this case, and to do that. And because I've been reached out to by people, and I've also been one to reach out in certain situations. And as much as I say I'm an introvert and it's hard to start a conversation and I'm afraid and I'm anxious and all this, the Holy Spirit is bigger than that.
Absolutely.
And in those moments when it's like pressing on your heart, don't hesitate.
Right.
Because the Lord gives the words. The Lord takes over in the situation and is faithful to do that. And even if it is awkward, it's going to be a story later.
Right.
It's still going to be used for his good, or for our good and his glory. Like, there's such purpose in that too. So follow that prompting too. I would say.
Yeah, it'll be like, remember that one time 10 years ago when you looked at me for like 2 solid minutes?
when you went full deer in the headlights, that was good. I'm like,
It's a bonding moment.
you're welcome. Stare longingly into your eyes. Hopefully they'd see it, or they see it like that. And it's not just like, you like dead eyes staring at me.
Oh, why wasn't I there? I see it.
Or maybe they're introverted and awkward too, and they're like, oh, I can talk to her. I speak her language.
Maybe
right.
they had a whole conversation with your eyes and you just didn't even know.
Yeah.
There you go. Get lost in your eyes.
Well, I feel like it's helpful to know too. It's like I imagine, like, if they're sitting there by themselves, they're probably just as nervous. And so to have anyone talk to them, that's probably like, oh, thank goodness, like someone's talking to me now. It's not awkward, but it's like it's still awkward tremendously for everyone. But like I feel like it's helpful to know, because I'm the same way. Anyone that I see sitting by themselves, I love going to talk to that person, because like I've been to that person where I've sat and like nobody came and talked to me, and so. I think that is such a beautiful thing, because a lot of people remember that. Like, it's funny, I've heard that a lot in the church that we go to, which is Gospel Community Church. A lot of people have said that, like, when they first started coming, they remember the first person that introduced themselves to them, and like that was like, it meant a lot to them. And like they'll still today, it's like, yeah, when I first came, so and so talked to me, and like I felt so happy because like they had a full conversation with me, made me feel good. And so like, yeah, that is so important. Reach out to those kind of people who are not, they might not be in your circle, they might not be one of your closest friends, but they could be. And so you never know until you start that conversation. But it's also, even if not, it's still a very loving thing to do. It's like something Christ would do, so we should absolutely do the same thing. You know, when you think about Christ, and when you think about friendships, like in a biblical stance, when you think about friendships? Like, Heather, what comes to your mind?
Open and honesty, support, both ways. Like, not just going into a friendship of like, okay, what am I going to get out of this? But what can I give to this?
Yeah.
Going, it's a give, and then you just automatically receive kind of situation, if you will. And being true, like true friendships. None of the surfacey stuff, we were talking about, holding each other accountable, and the list goes on, just to be incredibly real. And what I have learned is the more real friendships I have and the deeper they go, the more real I find myself being with God in my prayer time, or just all throughout the day of like, that's what he wants. I feel like that's one of his characteristics that he shows us through friendship is he knows what you're thinking anyway. So like, what's the difference, but you just turning to him and talking to him like he is one of these real friends, because that's the beauty of it. So,
yeah. Is there a time that sticks out to anybody where, when you think of God's pursuit, is there a time that you feel like God literally sent the people in your life to pursue you the way he would do it? For me, like when I was thinking, it just immediately came to me, like, and you'll hear it even more throughout the podcast, but there was a certain time in my life where I went through very severe depression. And so I feel like God used a lot of people in my life to pursue me in a way that I believe that, God pursued me, and so, and that was very helpful. I mean, I grew up not with the best family in the whole world. And so, when in times of struggle or anything like that, we were the family that, hey, you hide that. You don't talk about that. You don't reach out or do any of those things. And so I never really knew the basis of what a friendship really is until my adult life. And I'm like, oh, that's what friendship is. It's actually really great and loving and wonderful. But I was very grateful for a lot of people during that time, because they never quit, and they continued to pursue me and show me Christ's love. And what does that look like in a friendship? What is true family through him? And so I'm very grateful for friends during that time, because that made a massive difference. Because I can't even imagine. I mean, God can do whatever he wants to, but God chose specifically to use friends during that time to pursue me. And that is something that it's such a joy that brings to me every time I think about that. Is there anything that just pops into y'all's mind?
I think about how, like the word says it, Jesus is our friend, but a friend that like sticks closer than a brother. And when you are blessed with those relationships in your life where you are able to go deep and be who you are and be honest and open, how that sacrificial love comes out. Like, you're willing to sacrifice your time to go clean her house and to take care of that need because you love her like Christ loves the church. He gave himself up for her. And I think that once you start to see those friendships operate in your life, it makes it easier to begin to operate in that also. And it's so rewarding. It is so rewarding to receive that blessing, but also to be able to be used in that way. And that's what I think about a lot in relationships and like past experiences with like different friends over your life. Because not everybody comes into your life is in your life the whole time.
Right.
Like, so you just have seasonal friendships sometimes, but that doesn't make them any less important, any less impactful, any less deep and rich and everything. Like, I have best friends from when I was in high school that live in different areas of the country. And I know that if we called each other on the phone or saw each other somewhere, we would pick up exactly where we left off. Like, there would be no time lost at all. And it comes from those investments of that sacrificial love. And, I think that is such a model of friendship in Christ.
Yeah. That's something that came to mind as well, is that, breaking free of the mindset that friendships look exactly like this. And this is what the world says friendships look like. Yeah, but that's not what the gospel says friendships look like. Friendships don't always look like this one very specific thing. Like you said, you have friends all over. you can still be transparent and loving and honest and open with people, even if you're not seeing them every day. That doesn't make them any less a friend. It just is a mature, true friendship that is open to growth and is open to change and realizes that, life is never ending seasons. And it seems like it just leaves it more open for the Lord to work in all of us when we don't put friendships in such a hard box.
Yeah.
I can remember when, like, back to you when you were saying like a time when the Lord has used your friends to pursue you. Like, I can remember like when I went through particularly dark places, like when we found out Phoebe had autism. Like, the very first person I called was Meliah and cried.
Oh no.
And then
You're
like,
gonna get me.
I know, right? And then just to like see how the people that he put in my life really did rally around me to support me through that. And then when we went through the same journey with Peter, obviously I couldn't take that eval appointment is like a 4-hour grueling terribleness of an appointment. And so Phoebe stayed with Meliah while I took Peter up there, and we found out that he also had autism. And just as soon as I got home to get Phoebe, Meliah was just there and just held me while I wept.
We just sat and we just cried.
It is a beautiful thing in its own way, but it is very hard. And the Lord has put people around me that needed to be there. And like, love my babies. My babies are not always the easiest ones to love.
You stop it.
Oh, they are. I shouldn't say that. They're wonderful, but they didn't potty train till they're 6. Not everybody's like, yeah, let me keep your 6-year-old who's still in a diaper. Love to, And Meliah has always been there for me through that.
I'll wipe a butt. It ain't no thing.
Yeah, she would have let you.
But in instances like that, that's one of the beautiful things is when you start having we're going to coin George's, when you start having those hot friendships.
What was it? Honest,
open and transparent.
Honest, open, and transparent.
You get to rejoice with one another and weep with one another. You get to experience true community. And gosh, it's so beautiful. Like you said, it's so rewarding. And it is such a gift from the Lord. And so even now, I'm, thinking about that diagnosis and all the things that they said that Phoebe wouldn't do. And just looking at her now, like, it's going to get me.
Yeah.
She may never talk. That girl talks up a storm.
She
does. And it's just, we got to be together and mourn and grieve and weep together and also now rejoice. And it's
celebrate.
Just
yeah, absolutely
wonderful.
Yeah.
And that's Christ being there.
Yeah.
That's the human form of God right now. And, in your sister who's full of the Holy Spirit, that's Christ being with us through all of it.
Yeah. Makes me think of the scripture, John 15:12-13. It says, "My command is this, love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." I mean, if that doesn't scream God's love for y'all, God's love for friendships, I mean, I think it's such a beautiful thing. And like I said, his love for us is beautiful. And that we get to walk that out in friendships. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, but the same, like I feel like I have a lot now, and it's just, and for me not having a family, and I can use friendships who are, I believe, my true family.
Family.
Yeah.
Friend family.
Family.
It has made all the difference in my life, and it's brought me more joy than I ever thought I could even imagine. And it just gives me such even more of a love for the Lord, and just his sweetness and his goodness, because how sweet is that we get to walk out life with some incredible people. Because it's like, when you think about it, it's kind of hard to picture your life without those friends now. And so it's like, where you, like you're saying, you have seasonal or a lifetime. I told her, I said, we're lifetime friends. It's not seasonal. Like, it's forever.
Sorry, you signed the dotted line.
Yeah. You're stuck with me. I hope you like me because you're stuck.
There's just going to be a GCC like old folks home someday that we all live in.
Oh yeah, there has to
It
be.
might even be this building.
Yes, I'm convinced
They're going to need a
be.
few more bathrooms. Can we agree? But yeah, it might even be this building.
Especially if you give people your house key. You done messed up.
Oh, man. But it's hard. Like, we've probably some of the shortest amount of time. Like I've known y'all a lot longer, but it's like I couldn't picture life without you since I've known you now. And so, but it makes me so even more so grateful for friendships that I have and value them even more. But it just like I said, it just makes me have so much of even more love for the Lord and how He pursues us. He gives us those friends that we can go deep with, who we can reach out to, who can help us in healing and growth, and it's such a beautiful thing. Friendships are wonderful. And what's really cool to say with this table is we're all friends. So it's not like we're all strangers. We're all friends. And so, but I'm very grateful for all you ladies in my life. And it's so cool that we all get to kind of come together and talk about friendships, because I think we're all good friends. So,
You right.
but I hope everyone has enjoyed listening, and I hope that this podcast was helpful, whether if you're trying to find that adult friend or
Your grown-up friend.
Yes, your grown-up friend. Excuse me,
grown-up
friend. Or you're already in a friendship and you're struggling to go deep, or you're having troubles reaching out. I hope this was an encouragement, and kind of give you some examples how that is. But most importantly, above all else, to me, the ultimate friend is Jesus. And so, number one, always go to Him. Rest in Him with your struggles and everything, and rest in knowing that He has put people in your life that will reach out, that will be His hands and feet, and because He's that stinking good. So, yeah.
Stinking good.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to coin that.
Yeah. That stinking good.
Living a hot life because he's that stinking good.
Oh, yeah. But as we do with every podcast, we like to end with prayer. And Meliah, would you pray us out?
I knew you were going to say
I knew that since the beginning.
I knew you did. Okay. Lord, thank you so much for giving us your knowledge and your wisdom so that we can learn how to walk out a community and how to walk out friendships and to fully accept the gifts that you've given us in those friendships in community by seeing that we're just living life beside one another, and that is a very real thing, that it's not just in our heads. Thank you, Lord, for such sweet gifts that we could never deserve. I love you, Father, and I pray that you continue to grow friendships within GCC, and that the transparency and the honesty and the openness, they just spread like wildfire, Lord, and that we're a community that people want to be a part of because it looks like you. We love you, Lord. Thank you so much. In your holy name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks for listening. Please email us at bestillandgrowpodcast@gmail.com with your questions, comments, ideas, and prayer requests.
For more content from Gospel Community Church, check out the Training Day podcast hosted by David Sandridge
This is Catherine.
Heather, and Nicole.
Join us next time. We'll save you a seat. Till then, be still and grow.